Look at that brand new introduction at the end. Look at all that glitzy stuff. Thanks, Kathy. You're great.
You're so welcome. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good,
Welcome to
good.
It's Not an Orb, it's a Dust Show.
Yes, welcome. And if you're tuning in for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and click on notifications. Thank you.
Don't forget to click like on the
click like as well. Yeah, that's it. Click that like button.
Click that like.
Yes.
How's everybody this week?
Good. Lots of drama at work. Never a dull moment in healthcare, but I'm not really going to bore you too much with that. Been sitting on the shelf a little bit, so I'm eager to get out investigating. So we've got some stuff lined up next week. We've got a residential that's been proven to be active. So I'm pretty excited to get out to that. So just to get out of the house, I guess, more than anything else. But, yeah, just doing some organising as well for this paranormal camp thing we've got coming up in June as well.
Right, yeah, so that's exciting.
We're working on an agenda for that in June. I think it's the later part of June. And we're just figuring out what we're going to be doing for the Saturday and Sunday with the public. So it'd be good as well. So all good. What about yourself, lovely Linda? What have you been doing?
Well, it's exciting because everybody's now starting to work on events for this year. So that's exciting. And of course, we're going to start having our public paranormal meetings again because all these restrictions are going away. So that's going to be fun. And people are already reaching out for October events. I mean, holy Toledo, that's kind of weird. So it's like I've got my date book out and I'm planning, and I'm actually kind of getting excited because the past couple of years have been kind of wishy-washy, but this is going to be fun. What about you, Kathy? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So my son turned 17 this week. It was his birthday. I warned him the other day. I said, you have 363 days now to be a poop head and until you're legal.
Jesus.
He's not taking advantage of it yet, so that's good. We still got he's a good kid. But yeah, it was his birthday and that was kind of fun and exciting. Well, I don't know. It's hard to believe, your last one is almost an adult. Jiminy crickets.
I actually have to tell you ladies a story. After the show we had last week, do you remember when I brought up about the so-called demonic smell that went on in Charmaine's house, and there was a cat in a litter box behind me?
Yeah.
Coincidentally, my cousin was watching it back. She watched it like the next day, and she said she was sitting at work and she spat her tea all over the keyboard. And she broke her keyboard at work when she said that comment. So I got my ear chewed off for that. So apparently I've got to be less comical when I'm talking live on air. I don't know how that's going to work, but
people just have to keep their phones away from their mouth, right?
Yes,
so
yeah.
You have to allow a sitting room or something.
Don't stop being comical. You have to not stop being comical. You are. I love it when you're comical. Please.
I know. I can't help myself. That's the thing. Like my brain can't keep up with my mouth, and there's an apparent lack of filter as well with me as well, and it actually gets worse when you get older. Where you go and say something, you cringe and you're like, did I just say that? Yeah, I did.
My ex-husband used to tease me that I had my own dictionary. There was the Kathy dictionary because I can never pronounce words right, or I would make up my own word or, something like that. And, but when you do it on the air, people are like, what is she talking about? It's like, no, that's my dictionary. Just ignore it. It's my dictionary. I'm going to make up my own words and we're just going to leave it at that. And I think I have to start my own actual physical dictionary. This means that. This.
Yeah. I have that as well because apparently I make words up. But even though there's words that I say that are in the Oxford Dictionary, but it's not a common tongue in Canada. I'm known to be making up words. So I just stick to my Canadian slang, I guess.
Yeah. I just wanted to let people know if you're commenting from Facebook, we actually are not able to see who you are for some reason. I think it's just a glitch with, the Facebook to the stream or whatever it is. So if you can add your name, that would be wonderful, because that way we can, direct something to you personally, rather than it just saying Facebook user.
I think, I think that's Cody, but yeah, no, definitely if that's Cody, we're going to be working on something next month for the Para magazine that he does. So yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Okay, well, this week's guest on our show is a lady that had a series of events a few years ago, and had a paranormal team came out and did an investigation of the place. She's from Idaho, Boise, and let's bring her on the show, and so she can talk about the events that occurred in her house. Welcome to the show, Terri.
Hi.
Hi, Terri.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. It's nice to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Boise. I have raised 3 kids in Boise, and I've done a lot of caregiving and worked in assisted living. I was married twice. That's about it.
So, Peter had a team come out to your house. Is that the house that you're living in now?
I'm sorry?
There was a paranormal team that came out to your house. Is that the house that?
No,
you didn't have a team.
Came out.
Oh, okay. I was confused there. So, tell us a little bit. Is that the house that you're living in now, or is it?
Yes.
It is. Okay,
Yes.
So tell us a little bit what's going on.
Well, 9 years ago, we moved here, and I knew the man had passed away from cancer in my bedroom where I'm at now. But that didn't bother me, because it just didn't bother me. And my mom passed away 3 years ago, and I had an ex-boyfriend that just passed away.
Oh.
So anyway, after my mom died, things like, I inherited her roomba. She loved her roomba, her vacuum.
Yeah.
And my son and I, he gets off work late, so we sit and watch TV a lot of times together till 2:30 in the morning. And we were sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard, I'd had the Roomba for probably 6 months, and we heard, "Hi, my name's Roomba." And I looked at my son and I said, "Did that vacuum just say, 'Hi, my name's Roomba'?" And he said, "Yeah." Well, it's never happened since, and it never happened before. So anyway, I just said, okay, well, Mom's just letting us know she's here. So anyway, my son one day was microwaving something in the microwave, and the bell went off, the ding went off, and he walked in the room to tell me something, and he walked back in the kitchen, the microwave turned on. And he said, "Mom, the microwave just turned back on by itself." And so I said, "Oh, okay, whatever." And we heard, on Xbox, when it comes on, it goes doo-doo-doo.
Right.
We heard the Xbox go on. And he says, "Mom, my Xbox just turned on by itself." So we walked in the living room, and sure as heck it had. And then our cat was staring at the door one day, and my son walked over there and he says, "What are you looking at?" And my bedroom door opened, and he says, "Mom, your bedroom door just opened by itself." And I said, "Oh, whatever. I that stuff just doesn't bother me." And I went and I shut the door and turned around to walk away, and my bedroom door opened again, which it closes very tightly. It's not, it's not, it just closes good. So, it has to, I don't know how it got open because it usually latches really well. So anyway, we trying to think what else has happened. And my cat was staring very intently at that door, like he was seeing something.
Right.
And So anyway, I was laying on the couch one night and I felt somebody touch my back. And I turned over and there was nobody there. I looked, nobody there. And I thought, okay, it's just Mama letting me know that she's here. And then three separate times, I've been laying on the couch, taking a nap or whatever, waiting to get my son. And one night, just right before he got up, I heard somebody yell, "Mama!" And it sounded like my daughter. And so I woke up. There was nobody there. And then another time I woke up, somebody woke me up and I heard, "Mom!" And it sounded like my son. And then another time, I couldn't understand what they were saying, but somebody yelled something at me. It was like some weird, I don't know what it was. I couldn't even make it out. And I woke up out of a dead sleep. And all three times, I either had to get my son or I would have been late for something. So I thought, well, it's just Mama waking me up.
Kind of like your own alarm clock.
Right.
Yeah. But you seem really calm. I mean, honestly, if all that stuff had happened to somebody else, they probably would be freaking out.
I don't because, like I say, I've lived here for 9 years. I've never had anything. I mean, I don't think it's creepy, some of the things that have happened, but I've never had any bad feelings or I just feel like it's somebody watching out for me. I'm not sure who. It could be my mom. It could be my dad. I don't know, but I just feel like someone is watching over me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I forgot. My Alexa came on one night and it said songs by Joe. My mom's name was Joan.
Oh.
But it said songs by Joe and it started playing music. And I'm like, did I just say songs by Joe? And Michael says, yeah, it did. I said, okay. It just came on by itself one night. But those things don't bother me because I feel like there's nothing. They're not doing any harm. They're not threatening me in any way.
So is this your first time having paranormal experiences? Was when you moved in there? Or?
No, when I was a little girl, I used to see things on my wall. And one time we were playing hide and seek, my brother and sister and I got in the closet and I heard voices in the closet, which really scared me. And I never went back in a closet after that.
That was not a hiding place for you anymore.
No.
So I don't know what that was, but who knows? But yeah, I used to see things on my wall all the time going across my wall when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Really? And you were born and raised in Boise. So you've never left Boise. You've always been in Boise?
Yes. Well, except for the 2 years that my husband was in the military.
Right. Now, when you were little, did anybody else in your family experience stuff or was it just you?
Just me.
Wow. Interesting.
And I used to tell my mom about it and she'd say, oh, it's just a bad dream or it's your imagination. I was wide awake.
Right.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Parents are really good for just, passing it off onto just go to bed.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw one time, those old-fashioned candles with the, they had like the little, you put your finger in it, the little holder.
Yes.
I saw that go across my wall.
Really?
Oh, wow.
So,
that's
everything I can think of that's happened at my house. When I worked in assisted living, though, I had an experience out there. I worked there for 18 months.
What happened?
I worked in the Alzheimer's unit with the Alzheimer's patients. And one night I heard one of the residents get out of bed. And I went in there to help him back into bed and, get him all fixed in bed and everything. And I bent down to take his slippers off. And this was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, around there. And I bent down on my knees to take his slippers off, and this noise, and the only way I can explain it, it's a noise you really can't explain unless you hear it, but it sounded like a witch coming through that was screaming, but she started out really quiet and then it got really loud, and it was like it came through the window and went through the wall. Now, all the residents are in bed at that hour, unless, like one gets up, like this man did, to go to the bathroom. So, and there was another resident that used to sit up. She didn't sleep in the middle of the night. She'd sit out there and have coffee with me. So I'd sit down, I'd take a break, and I'd visit with her, and then she'd watch me clean. But anyway, back to the man in the room. I heard that come through, and your brain goes, did I really hear that? Or, it's such a shock when you hear something like that, that you don't really believe you heard it. Right. And so I look up at this man. It really scared me, but, I couldn't act scared because, I couldn't scare him. But I look up at this man, and his eyes are just as big as saucers. And he says, "What was that?" And of course, I patted him on the leg, and I said, "I don't know, but I'll go see." So I just kind of brushed it off, and I walked out in the common area. Well, the lady that sits up and have coffee with me, it's a big house. It's got 4 different sections, and then the common area in the middle, in the kitchen. And I go out there, and she's wheeling her wheelchair. She's lost her oxygen off of her wheelchair. She's trying to get to her room, and I go, "Where are you going?" And she said, "Didn't you hear that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I'll figure out what it is." And she goes, "What was that?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And she said, "There's no explaining that." And I said, "No, there isn't, but it'll be okay." So I got her calmed down, and I came home and I told my kids I was scared to go to work for a week. I cried every day in my car going to work. I was so scared to go back there. And so anyway, I told my son about it. And he said, "Did it sound like this?" And he played a banshee.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
And I said, "That's exactly what I heard. Exactly how did you know that?" And he said, "Well, you kind of explained it to me." And so anyway, I have not heard anything like that since, and I don't want to hear it again.
Did either of the residents, did any of the residents pass away shortly after hearing that, or?
They both did. The man did. And the one that was scared and going back to her room, they both passed away in that same month.
Yeah. Yeah. That they actually, I think the legend behind the banshee is that it's an indicator of death.
I never believed in a banshee before, but I'm a believer now.
Right.
Yeah, it's an Irish
legend. I don't know, much about it.
It's an Irish folklore that whenever you see, whenever you hear or see, I think it's see. When you hear, it's an audio thing. You hear the banshee play. It means that you're basically on your way out the door. There's when I actually went over to Ireland, that's like the forbidden tower of pretty much every part of Ireland. So it's a myth that's strongly believed out there as well. There's a lot of documentation out there about that as well. So it's kind of interesting for sure. So.
Well, I never believed before, but after hearing that, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So your house.
That the 2 residents that did hear it are the ones that passed away as well.
Yes. Yes, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any visualizations in your house? Did you see anything in your house that you're in right now? Have you seen anything in there at all?
Oh, yeah, I have actually. I walked in my room. I thought about that. I walked in my room one night. This was just a couple of years after we moved in. And I thought my dog was in here. And I didn't want to step on him. So I flipped the light on and there was nothing there. But I saw something in my bedroom. And it looked like a black animal. But there was nothing there.
Wow.
then one night I saw something between my dresser and my bed. It looked like, a black shadow. I've seen that, but other than that, I've never been creeped out really by any of it.
Did the man who had passed away from cancer, did he have a pet?
I don't know.
It's interesting.
I'm not sure. But
Right.
I heard the neighbors say he was a really nice man. Really nice.
That's interesting. How long have you lived in the house, Terri?
9 years, going on 10 years.
Now, when you first moved in, did you experience things right away, or was it only okay? So it was only after people in your life that passed that you started to experience, or
the animals I saw was a couple years after we moved in, but I never experienced anything after that until my mom passed away. Well, my dad passed away too, like 8 years ago. My mom just passed away 3 years ago. And I've had a couple of friends, my ex-boyfriend, he passed away. And then a friend's son just passed away. So I don't know, any one of them could be coming around.
Is there ever been any like familiarities with what you've seen or felt? You've suddenly thought, oh, that smells like like a fragrance of someone or something like that.
Only before my dad passed away. I was at work one day. I worked at Baird's Dry Cleaners, and I was at work one day, and I said, I smell my dad's cologne. Well, my dad was still alive then, and the girl that hung the laundry or hung the dry cleaning, she said, well, that's just weird. And my dad passed away a couple months later.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've had experiences in my life where I've known what was going to happen before it happened. A couple of them. When my daughter was a little girl, we went into a pizza parlor and there was 2 guys in there in the game room. And I said to her, she wanted to go down the game room. And I said, no. And if I tell you to get under the table, do it. Don't ask me why, just do it. Well, cops came in. They had been casing the place to rob it.
Really? Oh my God. Well, it sounds to me that you've got definitely a sixth sense of some kind. Are you the only one in your family who does that, who can experience things like that?
I think my oldest daughter does a little bit.
Right.
But I knew another time my daughter, she was going to drive over to Wilder to get my oldest daughter to take her to an event we were going to attend. And when she got in the car, my daughter and I had been kind of arguing, my middle daughter. And she got in the car to go get her sister. And she waved to me and she said, I love you. And I knew she was going to be in an accident.
Wow.
There was no doubt in my mind. And when she left, my oldest daughter called and said, Lori just got hit by a diesel truck over in Wilder.
Oh, jeez.
So, and I knew it. I knew something was wrong when she left. There was no doubt that she was going to get in a car accident.
Jeez. That's pretty incredible. I mean, that is incredible. But now you said you were really scared with that banshee. Was there another occasion that you were equally as scared, or have things in your life sort of happened and you've just kind of accepted them?
Oops.
No, that was the only thing that's ever scared me to the point where I was scared to death to go back to work. But excuse me, after I got over that, I think for like a week, I was scared to death to go to work. Yeah. But after I got over that, nothing scared me over there. Nothing.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. How long did you work there?
18 months.
Wow. Was that the only thing that ever happened there that really made you think, or were there other instances? I mean, it seems to me that you have some kind of, like I said, a sixth sense. You're able to pick up on things like a little lightning rod.
Mm. Yeah, I think so too. There was another incident after Roy. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say his name. After that man passed away, we were all out in there's an area out back where all four of us would meet and, kind of converse in the middle of the night and talk to each other. And then we'd go back in our houses. But in his room, his light flipped on and there was nobody in there. Nobody lived in there at that time. It was still empty. But they had the bed and the lamp still there and the light flipped on. And I wouldn't go in that room and shut it off, but one of the other caregivers did. One of the guys went in there and shut the light off. I said, I'm not going in there.
Did it turn on a lot, or was it just the one time?
I only saw it the one time.
Right.
But we've had other things happen out there. Like there was one lady that worked out there, and several times she would go into her house and see somebody beside her. And she said it looked like one of the residents, and she turned to talk to him and there wouldn't be anybody there. So we've had different things happen. The pantry door would always shut on us. The one food pantry door would always shut after we'd go in it. We've had cupboards shut on us or open on us. Just different, little things that weren't, none of that scared me, but that one time in his room did.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Especially hearing something like that. I think most people would be, have a little bit of a fear. Was it when you had that noise or that screaming, I guess, is it in a public area or was it like private area? Like what I'm saying is, could it have come from the street at all or cars or?
No, where I worked, wasn't a really busy area because it's out of Boise. It's like way out of Boise and it's kind of in a secluded type area.
Right. Okay.
And it was in his room that I heard it, but the other lady heard it on the other side of the building.
Oh.
Like I say, it was four separate areas.
Right.
With rooms in it, and then the common area was in the middle and the kitchen. So it's quite a big span, from his room to where she was. But she heard it as well.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty crazy, actually, especially to hear it all the way across the building like that, too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only the three of you that heard it?
Yes.
That's so strange. But were there other people there? That's the thing that really kind of freaks me out too.
Yeah. The only other two, I checked every single room to make sure, that the sound wasn't coming from anybody else's room, and every single person was in bed asleep. So, and there was no other sounds or anything. And our assisted living place, it had quite a big parking lot.
Right.
And the only street that it was right next to there was one at the side and one at the front, but where we were at it was kind of back.
Right.
So, from it with the parking lots and everything.
Right.
Oh.
But it didn't even sound like a car. I mean, it was the scariest sound I've ever heard.
Wow. Well, and Pete said, that it was, a banshee is a mythological creature. But at the same time, myths are definitely based in some form of reality or some form of experience. It has to be, right? Got to be. Why else would these things happen? Why else would they be a mythology? Why else would they exist in folklore?
Yeah, there's a lot of because everyone, the theory behind it is that it's just centralized around Ireland. But when I first came to BC, there's actually a lot of stories about similar type noises, but I don't define it as a banshee or anything like that, coming from the island, like Vancouver Island, where they've heard like in the far north parts of the island, they've heard like this horrible like kind of music, and it's always been a kind of associated with death and stuff like that, and it goes all the way up to like I think it's Fort Hardy at the top, and it spreads over as well, where they've heard these kind of noises and stuff like that. And at one particular time, it was about 10 years ago, we were actually going to go over there because there was one resident that lived in a trailer park. And he's actually a friend of mine still. He's still a friend of mine now, and he's actually moved over to the mainland. But it was a common occurrence because, first of all, they kind of thought to themselves, it's Bigfoot and stuff or something along that lines. But the actual noise that was projected as well was kind of like a music. And it was very like distinctive, and for him to describe it to me as well, it was like it didn't sound like it was any kind of instrument, if that makes sense. It was just like a mixture of like banging and crashing and noises, but in a sequence that sounded like it was projecting music. It's weird, but anyway, I guess that the only time we really get to hear it is if something happens to us. Yeah.
Well, I never believed in Banshees before, but I'm not sure I'm not a believer now.
Yeah, no kidding. I'd be a believer too, Terri. But listen, I have a question. You're still in that same house.
Yes.
I wonder, has anything recent happened?
Oh, most of this stuff, a lot of this stuff, like when Alexa came on and said, "Hi, my name's Joe," that was like within the last month.
Okay. So how about with your son? Is your son, are these the only experiences that he's gone through as well as just what's been on in the house, or?
Yes, he's 32. He's actually engaged. He's going to be married here soon and leaving. But we had a roommate that we rented one of our rooms for a while, and he turned out to be not such a great roommate, but excuse me, he swore that somebody was touching him at night.
Right.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. Probably because they didn't want him here.
Yeah, exactly.
They're looking out for us.
They are looking out for you. Well, you said that you would have been late for specific things if you hadn't been touched, if you hadn't been awakened. And that's kind of interesting. I mean, that you're right. It sounds like it's a benevolent thing. It doesn't sound like it's too incredibly scary, but I think it's really interesting that it keeps happening, that, you know, the minute almost that you moved in, things started to occur, and you're not afraid of it. Like I said, most people wouldn't stay. You know, most people would say, "Get me the heck out of here. I'm not living here anymore."
It doesn't feel bad though. I don't know how to explain it, but when you walk in, you don't feel like there's something creepy or bad. And I knew that the man had passed away, but I'd heard really good things about him. And the neighbors, have told me he used to build model trains that were real. They worked just like the big trains. And he used to build them out in the shed out here. And I guess he was just really a nice neighbor.
Wow.
I think every house, like any older house, carries a story to it one way or another. And it's regardlessly whatever the background is, you get that kind of, regardlessly whether you're spiritual or anything like that, you get that kind of sixth sense when you go into like places like that. And it's, you could have like a list as long as your arm of fatalities in a house, but the house, the atmosphere in the house is still happy. And that's what it counts, is your own personal, how you feel about the place more than anything else. I mean, the odds of probability of someone dying in the house that's probably around about 40 to 50 years old. It's probably a high possibility, especially in Vancouver or up in northern BC and Western Canada. But it's it's how you feel at the end of the day, and it sounds like you're content in what you're dealing with there as well. Is there so it sounds like that you kind of, well, like you said earlier on, you've got a kind of a past of like paranormal experiences and stuff like that. A lot of people have a theory that certain people are conduits to paranormal. That's that kind of sixth sense. Do you think that ability has been passed on, or was passed on to you from a member of your family at all, like that kind of spiritual sixth sense, or do you think that anyone else in your family may have a gift per se?
I don't remember anybody in my family other than my oldest daughter will call me in, you know, with different things, but I don't remember my mom or my dad or anybody, my grandma,
That's
ever
interesting.
experiencing anything.
Because it's
Right.
true. I mean, most people do say, and Pete's right, that this can sort of go through a bloodline. So it might be a mother or a father, an aunt, or something like that. But also, I have heard, and there's another theory, that if you are if something happened to you as a child, for example, if you had a near-death experience or anything like that, that can sometimes trigger an area in the brain that is more sort of susceptible to picking up on all of those feelings and those intuitive episodes. Did anything like that happen to you, maybe?
No, and when you were talking about a mother, I take that back. My mother's dog died, and she swore every night that dog jumped on her bed.
Yeah.
There you go.
So now that I think about it, yes, she did do that. She swore, oh, well, yeah, her dog, right before, I don't know, a year or so before she passed away, she swore to get up on her bed. And
Well,
then
it's interesting too, because a lot of things, if we look at just the generational age of psychic phenomenon, let's just say, and where it was accepted, a lot of times, for instance, our parents, that was something that they wouldn't talk about. It wasn't the norm. And if people did talk about it, they were usually, known as like the town quack, or, they were made fun of, or in some cases, depending on the timeline, they were actually institutionalized. So it wasn't something that people really openly discussed at, there's, certain periods within history, especially, in the night since the 1900s, that it was sort of a cool and the not cool sort of thing. Like, there was time periods where people would just shut it down, or, depending on where their location was, bringing up experiences brought back past, they might have had ancestors that were persecuted for speaking about their psychic phenomenon, and that was passed down generationally. So it just was quieted down to some degree as you go through the timelines, right? And exactly as one of our I can't pronounce your name, I'm so sorry, one of our viewers is just saying here, my father was adamant that ghosts, etc., didn't exist. And I remember that dealing with my father as well. I mean, my father literally could watch a glass, like, I mean, it never happened, but I'm just saying it could, like, this is where he was. He could watch a glass fly across a room, and he would have come up with, like, it was some sort of physical theory, mathematical. He probably would have gone out in the garage and invented something to try to prove that theory, rather than actually say, oh, that could have been paranormal. Fogbank. Right. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Fogbank. I appreciate that. I wasn't sure how to pronounce your name, but that's and so, when you're getting into, people that are, 30 and above, that would, it was a very difficult thing for people to really discuss, our parents at that time. And now that it's, become more open and, more accepted, I guess. And now, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, well, we kind of went through the fad. I think we went through the fad stage probably about 10 years ago. And now it's becoming more of the norm, where people can discuss it without it going into, without us being locked up or being looked at like we're right whacked. So
it's funny. It's funny over the years, like the amount of investigations that I've been on where you get that one client that never believed before. Like they were non-believers. They weren't skeptics or anything like that. They were like, you know, it was total cut and dry that ghosts didn't exist or anything like that. And there was just that one instant, and their mindset is just totally blown. And they're a lot of the times, and we're not supposed to be doing this as paranormal investigators or anything like that. It turned more into a counselling session in relation to try and explain to them exactly what they were experiencing. Obviously, we can't tell them exactly what they're experiencing because we don't know, but it was that kind of here's a shoulder to cry on kind of thing, because like their whole mindset where they spent about 30-40 years believing that one thing, that ghosts didn't exist or anything like that, and then there was just that one moment where their mind's just blown and they just fell apart. I mean, I've seen with investigations, I've seen marriages come apart because of the one thing where the wife's been, obviously women are more sensitive to the paranormal, which that's proven why I have had majority of female paranormal investigators, because they're more sensitive to the paranormal. Guys generally are, in my generation and generation before, very much, you know, what you see is, you know, they believe in concrete evidence and stuff like that, very much stiff upper lip kind of thing is what they have in England. And once that belief system gets toppled over, it's just like, it's like a bag of marbles just going everywhere in their brain. It's bang, it's gone everywhere.
And it's the same with children too, which is interesting that you had brought up, you know, when you had that experience as a child and were kind of just, you know, it was brushed over. And, you know, as an investigator, we did a lot of cases where it was the kids that were experiencing, you know, things within the house, and maybe the mom as well, but it was the fathers that were damn adamant. Nope, it's not happening. This doesn't exist. My kid's on drugs. My wife is a drunk. Like they would come up with any other excuse than what it was. You know, they would rather have their kids high on crack than it would be a ghost in the house. Like that in their heads, that's what it was. Meanwhile, the kid, you know, is going through, you know, terrorizing, you know, episodes or very scary incidents for them. And it was hard to, you know, you're trying to explain that these things do happen. And thankfully, a lot of the cases that we did have, or where we had the contact, is that the fathers were, after meeting us and talking to us, they were okay with us coming in to do the investigation. And when you were able to go back with some of the evidence, you know, that you might have picked up, or EVPs or visual verification of some sort, they were starting to get a little bit more open to it.
Yeah.
Fogbank is saying, my take, they do exist, but eliminate things like building, you know, settling buildings and old plumbing. Absolutely. Like we have, that's why it's not a bad idea to have a professional investigator come into the house. I don't know if I should call it professional. And somebody who with experience, an experienced investigator to come in. Yeah.
It would be fun to have somebody come in.
Well, that's right. I mean, would you be adverse to having somebody coming in and checking things out, or?
No, not at all.
That's good. That's good. Have you told anybody about them, and what have people said to you?
About my experiences here?
Yes.
They believe me.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I told my friends. My mom, actually, you know, the more I get to talk and think of things, my mom and I actually experienced. So she had this experience too. When my grandmother passed away, I spent the night with my mother and slept in her bed with her because, you know, she was upset over my grandma. So I stayed with her. And we both felt somebody rubbing our head, like just almost tickling our head and our hair.
Right.
Well, I didn't know that she was having that happen, and she didn't know I was having that happen. And I didn't say anything. I just laid there and I thought, oh, grandma's just telling us, you know, that she's okay. And quite a while, a long time after my grandma was gone, my mom was sitting there one day and she said, you know, when your grandma passed away, I felt like she was tickling my head, like she was letting me know she was there. And I just looked at her and I said, are you kidding me? I did too. So
Yeah.
we had the same experience there. So I forgot about that.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's funny because sometimes what you're talking about here is sometimes exactly what when people ask for, you know, again, an experienced investigator to come in, sometimes just through the talking itself can, you know, not only help the client, but it gives you a more broader view of
Yeah.
things that, you know, experiences that we may have forgotten or things that we just didn't think about at the time. And sometimes it's just all the way through the conversation that, you know, a new things are brought to light.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the times where we deal with clients, and 90% of the time they want that validation that they know that they know that they're not going mad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't find any, there's no, evidence, what we deem as evidence or anything like that, they're happy regardlessly because they've had someone to talk to about that experience. And that's essentially it, where you get an email sometimes, and Lynda and Cathy, you can probably testify this. You can get an email like it can be like about 5-6 pages long about the events that happened over the last 20 years in their life, and you're like, holy crap. And in your mind you're like, I'd love to see this place, I'd love to see this place, and you're like subtly responding back. It's like, oh, would you like an investigation? No, I just wanted to tell my story, and that's it. And that's what they want. It's like, the selfish side saying, no, my God, no, I want to go in there. Then you're like, then you're like, just give me your number, give me your number. They're like, no. And then they call the cops, and then it's a different story. Harassment charges, and sorry, I don't say too much.
Being dragged down the street by the police.
Yeah. You're standing outside the front door with your K2 in your hand, but no, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
My son had an experience in our old house. We lived in a different place before this place, and he had where he thought he was awake, and there was like an old woman hovering over him, and it really scared him. And he used to tell me about that from time to time, that happened to him. I always believed him. I'm not going to say it didn't happen, because I've had things happen when I was younger.
Yeah.
Growing up. So,
but
he swears by it.
Oh, sometimes, it's interesting, right? Like, even if you're not if you're not the one having the experiences in your own house, other people are, and it's interesting. I've had that happen actually when in one of my old places. I thought everything, I never gave it a thought that anything was going on or anything was wrong. And my ex-husband now, his brother used to stay with us, come over and stay. And he was like, I don't want to stay at your house anymore. We'd be like, why? Because there's something wrong with that room. I'd hear my name being called and stuff like that. And there would be a couple of times where, before we were married, my ex would stay in that bedroom as well. And he's like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but I would hear that too. And I was like, what is wrong with you? You guys never told me this. Like, he would hear their names being called. The doors would open and close. Things would happen in the room. And I was like, for me, I was perfectly fine. Never thought about it. It wasn't until I heard it from, numerous people. And then my daughter started, when I moved my daughter into that bedroom, same thing happened. She was like, Mom, I don't want to sleep in this room. And that's when I ended up selling the house anyway. So
it's too bizarre.
Yeah. But sometimes, I think too, is that, again, it like Lynda had said, some people are just, I guess the best word is I can't remember what word you used at the moment. My brain's blank. a conduit for paranormal activity. And sometimes too, it's actually just an indication that you do have the gifts. you do have some sort of sixth sense or some sort of, intuitive ability that is coming through. And this is why a lot of people do experience. So I've had places, clients where they were just getting all kinds of crazy activity no matter where they went, and it would just be them. And I'd be like, do you happen to be psychic, or do you have some intuitive, is there something going? And they'd start telling you stories of, well, I knew this one time when this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and all of that. And you're like, okay, sometimes the spirits are coming through to kind of say to you, hey, you've got a gift. Start checking into that gift. Maybe it's time to start using it or explore it a little bit.
Yeah, sorry I was moving around. I had to plug my phone in the bathroom because my phone was dying.
No.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to lose
it's
them.
All good. It's all good. Anyway, but Terri, thank you so much for joining us. I think that's it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And again, if you like the show, you like the content, you like the channel, please subscribe and click on notifications. And we will be back next Sunday, hopefully at the same time. And we'll be back on next week. Take care, guys, and have a great evening.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.